quick. The submission process is very slow. Only 8 responded till now. 9. Joel, the link in the chat box, use that to answer those questions. Is it tough? Two persons have got full marks, 3 got full marks, 10 has got 4 marks. If this is just for a recap of what you have learned in the last class, and also to understand whether you are following my class or whether I should need to change the method of teaching. One more thing, I have uploaded the YouTube links of the classes in the Moodle. You can use that. Uh, okay, now almost 64 are submitted. Remaining only 10. They may have joined a bit late. Okay, but anyway, the response is good. 21 persons have got, now it's 22. 22 persons have got full. And 21 has got 4 marks. Only one made it up. So don't worry, even if you have got low marks, no issues. It's not for examination purpose or it's not for grading. Okay, just for understanding what you have learned and just to continue with the last class. Okay, so let's start today's session. So in the last class, we have discussed about the symptoms caused by rise temporal, followed by we discussed about the various cultural, physical, and mechanical measures to manage rise temporal. We discussed completely up to trichocards. We will continue after trichocards and other management practice, and we'll move on to the next test. I'll be sharing my PPT. Okay, we were discussing about trichocards, and that was one successful biocontrol option in rice. Uh, I don't think Dr. Madhu Subramanian has taken the whether Madhu sir has taken class for you. No. Madhu sir, actually the morphology parts usually Madhu sir used to take. He used to take very nicely. He is my teacher too. As he has assumed the charge of director of research, he is not getting time to take class. That's why I took morphology portions to you. Otherwise, sir used to take the morphology portion. I used to handle the practical parts, the practical part of that. So Madhusa, he is working in ACRP on biocontrol of process and get that building you might have seen. Sir is carrying out biointensive pest management in Alathur. Anyone from Alathur of Palakkad district? Alathur Panchayat? Our biocontrol center is implementing a biointensive pest management program in rice in 500 acres of area. 500 acres. That's for continuing for the last 4 years, where trichocards are the major weapon for pest organic management of stem borer and leaf fold. So this is widely adopted. That example I took only to make you understand that this is a proven methodology. This is an accepted technique. Only thing that affects the adoption level is the availability of this one trichocards, because trichocard is not that commonly available. Its availability is a bit limited because it requires huge investment. So that's one thing. Then after that, we can use BT sprays. What is BT? Anyone? Miss for what is BT? What is the full form of BT?
Bacillus, Bacillus thuringiensis.
Yes, good, good. Bacillus thuringiensis. That's a bacteria which is effective against Lepidopteran pest. It can be recommended at the rate of 200 gram per hectare. It can be sprayed and it is effective against rice stem borer. And again, the second one, B. bassiana. What does the B genus name B represents? I will ask another person. Aisha,
Hello, sir.
what does the B stands for? B. bassiana. What is the B in that B. bassiana?
Tiberia bassiana.
No. Ah, yes, Beauveria bassiana. Yes, Beauveria bassiana is an entomopathogenic fungi. So Beauveria bassiana can also be used against rice stem borer. It is recommended at the rate of 10 gram per liter. So coming to the organic management, we can use trichocards, the most effective. Then BT is also recommended, Beauveria is also recommended, but compared to the effectiveness of trichocard, the use of BT and Beauveria is very low. If you want to go for organic management in rice for managing rice stem borer, the first and foremost thing you have to recommend is trichocard, not BT and Beauveria. So that is the case with organic management of stem borer in rice fields. So this pictures I have shown you in the last class. Then coming to the next, we move on to the chemical. So I told you whenever you are writing about the management of a particular insect pest, you have to first write about cultural practices, followed by physical, mechanical, biological, and then go for chemical control measures. So any chemical control measure should be based on ETL. So what is ETL, Alentina? What is the full form of ETL? Alentina, are you there? Yes.
Hi, sir.
Do you remember what is ETL?
Economic threshold level.
Yes, yes, good. Economic threshold level. Okay. Uh, just a minute, just a minute. Aparna.
ഞാൻ മേലെ എടുത്ത് പൊക്കോ അവിടെ മുള്ളിട്ട് വാ അവിടെ മുള്ളിട്ട് വാ മുള്ളി ഉണ്ടാവ് ബാബാ.
Sorry for the trouble. I had a phone call. That's it. So economic threshold level. If we define economic threshold level, is the pest population at which the level of pest population at which we have to initiate control measures. So that economic threshold level recommended for rice stem board is 1 egg mass or 1 moth per square meter. 1 egg mass or 1 moth per square meter. That means if you have a rice field, take a 1 square meter area. We usually what we do is we make a frame with PVC pipes of 1 square meter area, and we will just hold it above the rice field, and we will look through that frame or into the crop. If you see, because egg mass we can observe easily, mouth also we can observe easily. So in that area, we will, if we see 1 egg mass or 1 moth in a square meter of area, we will infer that the pest population is increasing, it is causing economic threshold level, it can cause economic damage to the crop. Then we have to go for chemical control measures. Then biocontrol options won't work. So that is the point, we have to initiate chemical control measures. And the chemical control measures recommended is, earlier we used to recommend seedling root tip with chlorpyrifos. That means once you pull out the seedlings from the nursery for transplanting, before transplanting, rice seedlings will be grown in a nursery, and that seedlings, before transplanting in the field, we will dip the roots of these seedlings in an insecticide solution. That insecticide usually recommended is chlorpyrifos at the rate of 0.02%. And we have to dip the roots of the seedlings in chlorpyrifos 0.02% solution for 12 to 14 hours. So that means overnight. Usually what the farmers do is they pull out the seedlings one day, the next day they will transplant it. So all the pulled out seedlings we can keep overnight in an insecticide solution with the roots dipped in that insecticide solution. That is one practice which used to recommend. This is still there in the recommendations, but nowadays we don't usually recommend because handling that much chemical and all is pretty difficult. So we usually don't recommend that nowadays. Usually the transplanting is done by laborers from other states. As in Kerala, it's called it as Bengalis. So it's not the native persons that usually carry out transplanting in the rice growing tracts of Kerala. So they come in group. They group of about 30, 40 persons. They will come together. 10 of them will go for uprooting the seedlings from the nursery. The remaining 30 they will simultaneously transplant. So the time gap, it's not there. Usually earlier it not usually not like that. Before the arrival of these laborers from other states, uh, usually we use one day we will uproot the seedlings, and next day we will transplant it. Okay. So this method is not that widely used. Farmers now prefer to go for insecticide application in the field, and that application is can be done in two ways for stem borer management. One, either we can go for broadcasting of granular insecticide. You might have remember what we studied about the formulation, GR formulation, granule formulation. This granule formulation we don't dissolve with water. We simply broadcast in the field. So in order to evenly broadcast in the field, we may mix with some inert material, or sometimes we may mix with fertilizers itself. Any fertilizers, Factum, urea, potash, whatever it may be, we can mix with that and broadcast in the field. So we usually recommend 4 pesticides which are having granular formulations for management of rice stem borer. Either we can go for cartap hydrochloride, or fipronil, or chlorantraniliprole, or carbosulfan. I repeat, 4 pesticides, they are having granular formulations, and these pesticides can be broadcasted in the rice field for the management of rice stem borer. The first one is cartap hydrochloride, second one is fipronil, third one is chlorantraniliprole, and fourth one is carbosulfan. Wherein cartap hydrochloride and fipronil is recommended at the rate of 5 kg per acre. That means 5 kg of fipronil, the granule, we will buy it in bags. We usually get it in 1 kg or 5 kg bags. That 5 kg, we will mix with some fertilizer and broadcast in the field, because 5 kg, with 5 kg alone we may not be able to broadcast it in the entire field. Broadcasting 5 kg in a 1 acre of area is difficult for any labor. So we'll mix it, we'll increase the volume and then broadcast so that it can be evenly distributed in the field. So 5 kg of Cartap or 5 kg of Fipronil we can broadcast in the field. Chlorantraniliprole, it is recommended at the rate of 4 kg per acre, and carbosulfan is recommended at the rate of 6 kg per acre. I will repeat: Cartap 5 kg per acre, Fipronil again 5 kg per acre, carbosulfan 6 kg per acre, and chlorantraniliprole is 4 kg per acre. Among this, I usually prefer to recommend chlorantraniliprole because that is labeled one. That means the toxicity is extremely low, and the effective period is also a bit high compared to Cartap, Fipronil, and carbosulfan. That means if Cartap and Fipronil, if you are going for a spray, Cartap and Fipronil, it will last for even carbosulfan. Cartap, Fipronil, and carbosulfan, its effectiveness lasts for hardly 25 to 30 days. That means 1 month. But chlorantraniliprole, its effectiveness lasts for 50 to 60 days. That means 2 months. So double the duration, it will protect the crop from stem borer. So that's why, and it is green labeled. Cartap, Fipronil, and carbosulfan are yellow labeled. So because of that, I usually prefer chlorantraniliprole, though it is a bit costly. And at what time we can recommend? We can recommend usually for a broadcasted crop, we can recommend at the time of 25 days after sowing. That means usually we go for a fertilizer application in and around 20th day of sowing. Once the sowing is completed, after 20 days, farmers will go for a broadcasting of fertilizer as the basal dose. That is in and around 20, between 20 and 25. 18 to 25 is the normal period farmers go for broadcast. At that time, we can mix the pesticide with that fertilizer and broadcast in the field. If it is a transplanted crop, if it is a transplanted crop, we usually recommend it at the time of again 20 days after transplanting. 20 days after transplanting means the first dose of fertilizer usually the farmers will give within on the day of transplanting or within 3 days after 3 to 5 days after transplanting. Again, the second dose will be given at 20 days after transplanting. At that time, we can go for broadcasting. If it is an extremely short duration variety, say Maniratna and all, which is having a duration of only 105 days, we can either go for broadcasting at the first fertilizer application itself, basal dose of fertilizer application itself, because that duration is very low. The second dose application may get delayed up to 25 days. So that's the usual recommendation. And then that is broadcasting. One advantage of broadcasting is that anyway farmer is going to broadcast fertilizer. So if you mix in the granular pesticide with fertilizer, he can save on the labor cost, because the labor cost already is incurring for fertilizer application. Along with that, but pesticide application also will be done. So he will save the labor cost. Labor cost is extremely critical in rice because availability of labor is low. Even if the labor is available, the cost of labor is also high. So for spraying operation, it is very costly. Getting laborers is difficult. For spraying, if spraying each tank of pesticide, laborers usually charge rupees 50 to 70. So usually we recommend about 10 tanks of pesticides to be sprayed per acre. So in that case, it will come to about 500-600 rupees as labor cost for spraying 1 acre of area. So that is one difficulty in using labor for spraying. But again, many a times farmer prefer to go for spraying, not for broadcasting granular fertilizers, though we usually advise them to go for granular fertilizers. If the farmer is going for a foliar spray, either we can recommend Acephate, that is one pesticide which is recommended for spraying against rice stem borer, that is recommended at the rate of 1.65 gram per liter. Cartap hydrochloride. See the formulation earlier, it was granule formulation. Now it's soluble powder formulation. That means it is mixed with water and sprayed. This Cartap hydrochloride is recommended at the rate of 2 gram per liter. Flubendiamide. Just a minute. അതൊക്കെ ഓർഡർ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട് കൺഫേംഡ് വരുന്നുണ്ട് അതെ അതൊക്കെ കൊടുക്കണ്ട അത് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട് അത് കൊടുത്തിട്ട് പേയ്മെന്റ് എനിക്ക് കിട്ടിയത് 2 ആഴ്ച മുമ്പ് എന്റെ കൂടെ കൺഫേം ചെയ്തു ഇല്ല sorry. So Cartap, the sprayable formulation, soluble powder formulation is recommended at the rate of 2 gram per liter. Flubendiamide, again a green labeled pesticide which is specific against caterpillars. It is recommended at the rate of 2 formulations are there. One SC formulation, 39.35 SC formulation is there. It's available in the. It is recommended at the rate of 1 ml per 10 liter. Then another formulation of the same insecticide, flubendiamide, it is available in the market in as 20 Wg water dispersible granule. It is recommended at the rate of 2.5 gram per 10 liter. And the chlorantraniliprole, which we use as the granular form, it is available in the sprayable form also, SC formulation. It is recommended at the rate of 3 ml per 10 liter. And another insecticide, spinosad, 45 SC, it is also recommended at the rate of 4 ml per 10 liter. Any of these insecticides can be recommended. Acephate, 1.65 gram per liter. Cartap hydrochloride, 2 gram per liter. Flubendiamide, if it is an SC formulation, it is 1 ml per 10 liter. If it is a WG formulation, it is recommended at 2.5 gram per 10 liter. Chlorantraniliprole is recommended at the rate of 3 ml per 10 liter, and spinosad at the rate of 4 ml per 10 liter. These are the insecticides recommended for the management of rice stem borer. Either we can for granular application or we can go for spraying of pesticides. Both way we can. And one more pesticide I just remembered, I forgot to include in the slide. Flubendiamide is also now available in the granule form. Flubendiamide, last year, a company has introduced a granule form of flubendiamide against rice. I forgot to include it. Its trade name is Cycon. I didn't include the trade names. You remember, try to remember the trade names. If you want, I will just repeat the trade names just for you to understand. Acephate is recommended at the rate of acephate. It is available in the trade name Acetaf. That is the usual trade name. I will type it. Acephate is available in the trade name Acetaf. Normally there are several trade names, but the common one is Acetaf. Cartap is not common in Kerala, but it is available as Caldan. Flubendiamide SC is Fame, that is very common. Flubendiamide WG is available as Takumi. Several trade names are there, but these are the most common. Chlorantraniliprole SC formulation is available as Coragen, the trade name Coragen. And spinosad is Tracer or Tuffin. 2 trade names are common in Kerala. And if you see the granule formulation, again the trade names changes. If you see the granule formulation of chlorantraniliprole, it is available as Fertera. The granule formulation of chlorantraniliprole is available as Fertera. Carbosulfan is Sherif, and fipronil Regent. Fipronil, again, fipronil is Regent. The trade name, at the same trade name, we have a SC formulation as well as a granule formulation. This is just for your information, because you have to remember the trade names also. Whenever you are recommending a pesticide, you might be remembering whenever a doctor is prescribing any medicine, doctor usually doesn't write paracetamol, the chemical name. He usually writes Calpol, Fepanyl, or anything. Sometimes for any other, say omeprazole, he may write Omes, doesn't write omeprazole. The trade name usually writes. So in agriculture, for us, usually we government servants, we usually don't recommend trade names, but many a times farmers are familiar with the trade names. So sometimes we are forced to give the trade names. Otherwise, the dealer may not understand what we are recommending, and the farmer also may not understand what we are recommending. So we have to be familiarized with the chemical name as well as the trade name. There are several trade names for each and every chemical. I've just given only a few so that you might be familiar with these trade names. Okay. So we are completing the rice tempura. We are moving on to the next pest, that is rice leaf folder. Rice leaf folder, the scientific name is Nephilocrosis medinalis, belonging to the family Crambidae of Lepidoptera. Nephilocrosis medinalis, belonging to the family Crambidae of Lepidoptera. This is a straw colored moth with gray transverse line. I will show you the picture. See this. Straw colored, light yellow or dark yellow colored moth with black transverse line. You can see it, or I will show a picture more. Okay, see this. Black transverse line. So this is how yellow stem borer looks in the field. So you might have seen, many of you might have read Balarama, Boombat and all the kids magazines when you were a kid, and there used to be a kind of format wherein they will give two pictures together and they will ask you to identify the differences between the two pictures. So if you remember the picture of rice temporal adult moth, can anyone point out the differences between the rice tempora moth and the rice leaf folder moth? I won't be calling out the name. Anyone can come forward and point out the differences between the moths of rice tempora and rice leaf folder. I'm not shown the picture of rice tempora moth over here. You can remember it from the picture I have shown you. Anyone? No, not a single one. Then black spot on the forewing, yes. Black spot, there is no black spot, yes. Brown stripe is not present, yes. Black lines are not present. Then there is in Stembora moth, the wings are having, yes, Shifa, that's correct. Wings spread at rest. See the wings of uh, leaf folder moth. It is spread while at rest. Whereas in Stembora moth, it is folded backwards over the abdomen. That is one thing with all the Stembora moths. Here it is being spread. The color, there is different, spotting is different. Then one more thing, if you observe where the moths rest, can you spot the difference? Where the moths were resting in both the pictures, if you remember. Stembora, it is at the tip of the leaf. Yes, here you can see in the middle or base of the leaf. That's one difference. So Stembora moths we usually see at the top of the leaf. Leaf folder moths we usually see at the middle or base of the leaf. And it's very fast moving. It moves quickly in the field. Stembora moths are a bit sedentary in nature. So that is with respect to rice leaf folder moth. And eggs are laid in longitudinal rows. I will show a picture of it, then you can understand. See this. It's laid in longitudinal rows. It's not in different layers. In rice tempura, I told you, it is laid in a mass, one above the other. That means different layers of eggs will be there in an egg mass. Here, it is a single layer. It is laid in a single line, horizontal lines. So that is how the leaf folder lays eggs. And the larvae folds the rice leaves and feeds on the green matter. See, I will show a picture. See this. Before that, I will show. See this. This is how the larvae damages the leaf. The larvae folds the leaf, and the larvae will remain within the leaf and feeds the green matter. not the entire leaf, only the green matter. I will show you a picture for see how it beautifully folds the leaf, and the larvae will be remaining within the leaf and feeding on the green matter. See, the entire green matter will be fed by the larvae and the leaves will appear white. Not the entire leaf, only scraping of green matter. And the folding of the leaf can be in two ways. One, either it can be longitudinally, as you see it over here. Just like you can see, it is longitudinal folding. That means lengthwise. Sometimes, just like what you see it over here, it can be transverse folding. See, just like this, transverse folding. So, folding of the leaves can be longitudinal lengthwise or transverse folding breadthwise. So, in either ways, the larvae can fold the leaves and remain within the leaves and feed on the green matter. And if the crop is in the nursery stage, very small leaves if they have, there won't be enough width for the leaf, width or length for the leaves to be folded in longitudinally or transversely. So in those cases, what the larvae will do, in the early stage of the crop, if they have very small leaves, what they will do is, they will fold or they will web the neighboring leaves together. Two or three leaves together, they will web together and they will remain within the web of this two or three leaves. I haven't seen that kind of damage much. This is the most common one, but sometimes we can see, especially in nursery. In nursery, seedlings will be grown together and this width of the leaves will be pretty small. So in those cases, the leaves will be webbed together. And that larvae will be remaining within that web. So once you open the fold, you can see the larvae which is feeding on the green matter, and its excreta can also be seen within the folded leaf. So that is what we normally observe. So this is how the damage looks like. I will show you a picture. So this is very severe infestation. Complete leaves are eaten away, green matter is eaten away, and leaves looks white. See, anyone from Mangada area of Malappuram district? This is a picture I have taken from Mangada. So many of you are from Malappuram, that's why I asked. So here, whatever you see it over here, just a minute. Whatever you see it over here, this whitish area, all this whitish area is because of the feeding of rice leaf fold. Entire green matter was fed by the larvae. So this is how the damage looks like for like a rice leaf folder. It pupates within the leaf fold, and all those things I discussed. In case of seedlings, the young plants, the leaves of adjacent plants will be webbed together and larvae will be remaining within the web. In grown-up plants, larvae will make the fold the leaf longitudinally or transversely. Infested plants appear white and leaves dried up. And few things that favor the multiplication of rice temporer is shaded condition and excess application of nitrogen. If you go for excess application of nitrogen, it favors the multiplication of rice leaf folder. If the crop is grown under a bit shade, there will be more leaf folder infestation in the shaded area. So if you have a rice field, on the boundary of the rice field, there will be hanging trees, coconuts, etc., and there will be shade in that border area. And in those shaded area, leaf folder infestation will be very high. And coming to the nitrogen, I will show that picture again. Then that picture I have taken from Mangada. So here we have this is one of the most severe leaf folder infestation I have ever seen. And we discussed with the farmer what all the practices he has adopted. So we asked what all the fertilizers he used. He told he used the Factompos and urea. How many times? Twice. So we asked why potash was not used, because potassium is essential for resistance to pest and diseases. So he told he has applied earlier. He was planting banana in that same field. He has applied enough potassium for banana, so that's why he skipped potassium in this rice crop. So, because of the heavy use of nitrogen from urea as well as phosphorus, the condition was extremely ideal for the multiplication of rice leaf folder. So that's what we usually observe in the field. Farmers doesn't follow integrated nutrient management. So I'll quickly complete this slide also before finishing it off. So we have two resistant varieties. One is Jayati and Lakshmi. These are not that popular varieties among farmers. But remember this name. This is released by KU itself, Jayati and Lakshmi, which is having resistant to rice leaf folder. Then avoid excessive use of nitrogenous fertilizers that we have discussed. Excess use of nitrogenous fertilizers will lead to the outbreak of rice leaf folder. It should be judicious use as per the recommendation. And here, the Trichogramma species recommended is Trichogramma chilonis, not Trichogramma japonicum, because Trichogramma chilonis is a better parasitoid than Trichogramma japonicum. But for stem borer, we are recommending japonicum. Why? Why we are recommending japonicum for rice stem borer? Anyone? You can use the chat box. Yes, length of the ovipositor. Good. So here Chilonis, because here I have shown you it is a single layer. So the length, shorter ovipositor of Chilonis itself is sufficient. So that can be recommended. Again, the use is similar to what we have recommended in rice temporal. 5 cc, that means 1 lakh per hectare at weekly interval from 7 to 10 days after transplanting or for 5 to 6 weeks. I repeat, 1 lakh per hectare. That means 5 cc per hectare. The question quiz I asked per acre. That means 2 cc at weekly intervals. Every week we have to keep after 10 days after transplanting. If it is sowing, it is 25 days after sowing for 5 to 6 weeks. Again, we can recommend Beauveria bassiana. Beauveria bassiana at the rate of 10 gram per liter is also recommended for stem borer. Then Pseudomonas, especially chitin-based Pseudomonas. Chitin-based Pseudomonas means Pseudomonas is reared in a medium containing chitin. Chitin, I think you remember, it is a constituent of insect cuticle. So, chitin-based Pseudomonas, that means Pseudomonas which is cultured in a media containing chitin, is effective against rice leaf folder. It is recommended at the rate of 10 gram per liter. And we can go for neem-based formulation containing azadirachtin 1% at the rate of 300 ml per acre. Neem-based formulation containing azadirachtin 1% at 300 ml per acre. So these are the cultural practices, biocontrol options for the management of rice leaf folder. The pesticides recommended are the same. I am not repeating. The stem borer, if you see the pesticides, it is the same as that of stem borer. Granular pesticides, which is recommended as Cartap and Fipronil at 5 kg per acre, Carbosulfan as 6 kg per acre, Chlorantraniliprole as 4 kg per acre. And for foliar sprays, we can recommend Acephate, Cartap, Flubendiamide, the two formulation, Chlorantraniliprole and Spinosad. Only one insecticide which is different, which is recommended only for leaf folder, that is Indoxacarb. Indoxacarb. Harikrishnan, can I take 1 more minute so that I can finish leaf folder?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So one thing we usually advise farmers is before spraying the pesticides, especially if the pesticide is contact in nature, not systemic. Contact means the insecticide has to fall on the larvae. You remember the larvae is remaining inside the leaf fold. That means the larvae is protected in the leaf fold. So if you spray a contact pesticide, the pesticide will not fall over the larvae. It will fall on the leaf, but it will fall on the larvae remaining inside the leaf fold. So either you have to go for a systemic pesticide. That means the pesticide, once it is sprayed on the leaf, it will get absorbed into the leaf. And once the larvae feeds on the leaf, it will get poisoned. Either we have to go for a systemic pesticide, or we have to open up the leaves with a thorny twig. മുള്ളിട്ട് വലിക്കുക എന്ന് പറയും നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ. A twig containing thorns, any tree which is having thorns, we just move it over the crop. So while moving a thorny twig over the crop, the leaf fold will get opened. Then we go for the spray of a contact pesticide. When we go for a spray of contact pesticide, once we use the thorny twig over the crop, then the larvae will be exposed to that pesticide. Pesticide will fall over the larvae. So that is usually recommended to farmers, but farmers doesn't follow it. So mostly we recommend systemic pesticide, because moving thorny twig over crop is very difficult, very cumbersome process. It takes a lot of labor. So we usually recommend farmers to go for systemic pesticides. Most of the pesticides, except that Indoxacarb, the last one, all of them are systemic. So it doesn't need that opening up of the folds. Okay, I'm finishing leaf folder also. Any clarifications, any doubts? If you have any questions with respect to the cues I have put, that also can be asked.